So we'll discuss a little bit about Lag Baomer, since it's coming up Sunday, Saturday night is Lag Baomer. So we'll discuss why does one celebrate Lag Baomer? How do you celebrate? Do you celebrate? What happened on Lag Baomer?
You go on a picnic.
That's the way in North America how they celebrate. They go play a baseball game in the park, or they have a barbecue. In Eretz Yisrael, it's much bigger, and especially in Meron, people go up, as we'll see. They go to Rav Shimon Bar Yochai's kever, but we'll get into that. So before that, we need a little background. What happened during this time period of Sfiras HaOmer? So why we all know Sfiras HaOmer is a time of semi-mourning. That's why there's a tradition of not to get married, not to take haircuts, not to shave. But you're not going to find that anywhere in the Gemara. All the Gemara tells us, the Gemara in Yevamos on Samach Beis Amud Beis, the Gemara tells us, Shtei Masa Elav Zugim Talmidim Hayu Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva had 12,000 pairs of students. That's 24,000. 22,000 pairs. And then V'kulan Mesu V'perek Acha, they all died. V'meishalo Kavod Zeh Lazeh. And they all died because they didn't treat each other properly. Whatever that means exactly. And the Gemara says they died a very painful death. But the Gemara just says it was during the time of Pesach and Atzeres. During the time of Pesach and Shavuos, Kula Mesu be Pesach li'ad Atzeres. That's all the Gemara tells us. The Gemara tells us between Pesach and Shavuos, Rabbi Akiva's students died. But that's it. The Gemara doesn't say, and therefore we have Avelis on this time period. That's a later institution. The Meiri quotes from the Gaonim that not to get married and then not to shave and take haircuts and maybe music, etc. So the Meiri is the first one to suggest that the Kabbalah biyad ha-Gaonim, he has a tradition from the Gaonim, Shabiyom Lamed Gimel Baomer, on the 33rd day of the Omer, Pasku Hamisa, they stopped dying. And because they stopped dying on Lag Baomer, Shago is Hanos Bo. Therefore, we don't fast on this day. So basically, the Meiri, the Gemara doesn't tell us this. The Meiri is the first one to tell us. He has a tradition from the Gaonim that they stopped dying on Lag Baomer. So therefore, they died between Pesach and Atzeres, but Lag Baomer they stopped dying. So therefore, it's what the Ramah calls, it's a Ksas Simcha. It's a Mixas Yantiv. So what does that mean exactly? Because they stopped dying, it was a Yantiv? They stopped dying because there was no one left. That's why they stopped dying. I don't know. Is that a reason to celebrate? Since when I understand you lessen the pain and you could take a relief from mourning, but that's a far cry to say you should celebrate the day. So what does it mean? You should celebrate the day because they stopped dying. So where do we have precedent for this? That we see when after a terrible tragedy, when a tragedy is over, so therefore we have room for simcha. So we have a Gemara in Tainus, it's a famous Gemara in Tainus, at the end of Tainus. The Gemara tells us what are the two happiest days of the year. The Gemara says Yom Kippur, and then it says Tu B'Av, the 15th day of Av. So the Gemara says, I understand Yom Kippur, why it's the happiest day of the year, because we get forgiven for our sins. But Tu B'Av, most people haven't heard of Tu B'Av. What happened on Tu B'Av? So the Gemara actually lists many things. But I'll just do the one relevant to our discussion. So the Gemara says, you know what happened on Tu B'Av? that the people who were dying in the Midbar, because of the sin of the Meraglim, the Jewish people were destined to die. Some of them were destined to die in the Midbar. And you know when they stopped dying? They stopped dying on Tu B'Av. How do we know they stopped dying on Tu B'Av? Because the Gemara tells us what happened. Very interesting medrash, that what happened was that every day on Tisha B'Av, every year on Tisha B'Av, everyone used to dig graves and go sleep in the grave. And whoever did not wake up, they finished off the funeral. And whoever got up walked out. That they did for 40 years in the desert. They did it, and finally one year, everyone dug graves, and then everyone woke up the next morning. So they said, what's going on? Maybe we got the wrong day. Maybe let's do it again tomorrow. The next day in two, they saw the moon. It was Tu B'Av, the 15th of the month. They saw the moon in its fullest. And therefore they realized that it's over. All the Mesei Midbar stopped dying. And Tu B'Av is a Mixas Yanta, so perhaps that's the source of the Ramah. Where does the Ramah get that Lag Baomer is a Mixas Yantif? So if we assume that the Ramah is learning like the Meiri, that they stopped dying on Lag Baomer, then at least we have a source, something similar, that the Jews stopped dying in the Midbar and they made a quasi-Yantif. So to here. I mean, one could argue on that point and say there's a big difference, or a difference. The difference is that in the case of the Jews in the Midbar, you could say they weren't celebrating the death of Rabbi Akiva's, of the people stopped dying, but that means the mission was ready to be completed. Why were they doing 40 years in the desert? To get to the land of Israel. So that's what they were celebrating. It means now that everyone stopped dying, now we're going to go into Eretz Yisrael. Maybe that's why it's a Mixas Yantav. If that's true, then there would be no proof of Lag Baomer. However, even though there's a source for it, it's still difficult logically to say, it's not that compelling that you make a Mixas Yantif because people stop dying. So therefore, the Pri Chadash and others explain, no, that's not the Simcha. The Simcha isn't in the death. A Rabbi Akiva's student stopped dying, but as the Gemara tells us, but what happened afterwards? Rabbi Akiva got 5 students. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rav Shimon, who was Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Elazar ben Shabua, V'heim Hamidu Torah Oso Shah. The amazing thing was, you would think after 24,000 students he'd give up, but he brought up another 5 students who eventually, the reason why we have Torah today is because of those 5 students. So we're not celebrating the death of the students, we're celebrating the fact that on these days, that the 5 students came along and started spreading Torah. So we're not celebrating over the death, we're celebrating the Masorah was continued. So that's one explanation. They stopped dying. So we said that's difficult, no one's left. But the fact is, we're not celebrating that, it's the fact that they kept on going, the resilience factor. That no matter how bad it got, Rabbi Akiva never gave up hope. Another suggestion is from the Chidah, that we're celebrating Lag Baomer not because of the death of Rabbi Akiva's students, but the Chidah is the first one to say this. It was the death of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. He died on that. That's what we see in Israel. Everyone goes visiting his kever Rav Shimon. In fact, this year they were thinking, I don't know what happened, I heard someone saying it, that they were thinking of maybe pushing off Lag Baomer. I mean, obviously you can't push off Lag Baomer, but they were concerned that when Lag Baomer falls out Saturday night, there'll be a lot of Chilul Shabbos preparing the day before, so maybe in terms of trying to make the party at Meron the next day, which I think might be hard anyway, but I just heard this like they did for Yom HaAtzmaut and Yom HaShoah, they pushed off, so too there. So some point out that it was the yahrzeit of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, and that's why we're celebrating. But still, do we celebrate yahrzeits? Is that what we do on a yahrzeit? We celebrate?
No. But he said he wants people to celebrate on his yahrzeit because he doesn't want people to mourn, and that.
I know. So only he doesn't. So I'm sure everyone wants that. Who doesn't want that? People want. I mean, well, how's that different than anyone else? I'm saying normally. I'm not disagreeing. My question is normally a yahrzeit not a celebration. Well, let me just point out what I mean. There's two schools of thought on this. Fast versus feast. What do you do on a yahrzeit? Do you fast? Or do you feast? So if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, the Shulchan Aruch says you fast. Among the Hasidim, they have a minhag, they have a tikkun, they make a breakfast, they eat. Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, who wasn't too fond of this custom, used to make fun of it by saying that what happened, where did this minhag of eating on a yahrzeit come about? He said what happened was, people used to make a siyum, finish a certain amount of studying, and then after the siyum they made a breakfast, or they had food. So what happens, after a while they dropped the siyum and left the food. Obviously the Hasidim have other, that's Rav Yaakov doesn't like it, he's a Litvak. The Hasidim I'm sure have their own reasons why they think eating is okay. But that's the issue. So generally we paskin B'Yikar Adin, yahrzeit a day of fasting. So what do you mean? We celebrate the death of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Since when do we celebrate the death? Zayin Adar. There's no one greater than Moshe Rabbeinu. Do we celebrate the day when Moshe Rabbeinu died? Well, that was the day of his birth also. But do we celebrate the day of his death? No. So how does it make sense to celebrate the death of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, but not celebrate the death of Moshe Rabbeinu? So some want to give an answer to that. Some say, because it's a different way how they died, or in the matter. Moshe's death, albeit he lived to 120, was not happy in the sense he never fulfilled his dream. His dream was to enter the land of Israel. So therefore it was sad in that sense that Moshe Rabbeinu he got to see Eretz Yisrael, but he never got to go into it. So perhaps that's why it's on a time of celebration, not to take away all his accomplishments, no one could compare. But Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, they say, he lived all his years. In fact, not only that, in fact, the Moadim Bizmanim is a very interesting piece where he even says it's Derech Rachok, it's a long shot, but he quotes that I was celebrating the death of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai because the Gemara in Shabbos talks about the Romans made a decree they wanted to kill him, and basically the miracle happened. He hid in a cave for many years. A carob tree grew. They used to put the clothes out and be in the mud. And the Medrash Gemara goes through all the details. After 12 years, he left. He went outside. He saw people working and he burned them up. And God said, "Get back into the cave. You're not ready for this world." He went back in a couple more years. He came out. He saw someone bringing flowers for Shabbat. Oh, he said, "That's so nice. You could use a mundane thing for kedusha." So basically, what Moadim Bizmanim, he quotes someone that suggests, you know why it's a happy time? Because really he lived much longer than he was supposed to. He died a natural death. The Romans tried to kill him many years earlier, and then miraculously he was able to survive. And then he only died later on, Derech HaTeva. So that's why it's a celebration. We're not celebrating his death. He lived a full life. He was able to live out his years. And in fact, that's what some point out. What happened on the day of his death? He revealed the Zohar. He revealed the book of Kabbalah. And that's why we're celebrating. We're not celebrating the death of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. We're celebrating his Torah he revealed. What Torah did he reveal? The Torah's Nister, the hidden Torah, the Kabbalah. The real Kabbalah, not Madonna, but the real Kabbalah of the Zohar. And that's why we're celebrating. He revealed the hidden secret. And in fact, they point out along these lines on the hidden Torah, in the Svarim HaKedoshim, they make a connection between Purim and Lag Baomer. First the word plag, plag, but pei is Purim, Lamed Gimel. First of all, what's an obvious connection between Purim and Lag Baomer? similar to Pesach and Tisha B'Av, is it happens on the same day of the week. When did Purim happen this year?
I think it's happened on Sunday.
Correct. So when is Lag Baomer?
Sunday.
Right. So number one, we see a link, the fact that they happen on the same day of the week, they're always. But on a deeper level, they point out as follows. How many days are there between Pesach and Shavuos?
49.
Correct. So how many days are there between Purim and Lag Baomer?
49?
No, 64. So what's Pesach to Shavuos? 7 times 7, right? 8 times 8 is 64. So what does the number 7 signify? 7 always signifies derech hateva, the normal way. 8 is always mimala miderech, above the laws of nature. Chanukah 8 days. We have a bris milah on day 8. So what was given on Shavuos? The Torah as we know it, the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, the 5 books of Moses. What was given on Lag Baomer? The hidden Torah. The Zohar was revealed. That's the number 8 signifies that. In fact, interesting, some point out a play on words. In the Mission Rosh Hashanah, it says there are 4 New Years. And they list the 4 different New Years. We know Rosh Hashanah Judgment Day, but there's other days, Tu B'Shvat, etc. But some want to point out there are 4 days of Kabbalah HaTorah. One day is Shavuos, right, when the Luchos Rishonos, the Torah was given. And then the next day is Yom Kippur. The second tablets were given. The third day is Purim, when the Torah Shabbal Peh was given, as the Gemara tells us in Shabbos Peches, Kibbul Masha Kibbul Kfar. And some suggest Lag Baomer is the 4th day, and that's the day where Kabbalah, the hidden Torah, was given. And that's where we see the link between Purim, and also what's another link between Purim? Purim, how did God do the miracles? Like between Pesach and Shavuos, Pesach there were open miracles on Pesach and Shavuos, on Matan Torah, Har Sinai, all the miracles. But Purim was behind the scenes. God's name is mentioned in Megillah Esther. Lag Baomer is the hidden Torah. And that's another link between Purim and Lag Baomer. Interesting, the Chasam Sofer points out, well before this something happened on Lag Baomer. He learns out from different psukim, something very bad happened on this day, Lag Baomer. The Mabul from Noach, the flood started on that day. And therefore it seems to be, so why is it a happy day? However, he says, what happened later on in Jewish history, the Mon was given. So we see, just like Purim was a day, it started off as a sad day. Haman decreed to kill all the Jews, it ended up as Simcha. So too Lag Baomer. It started off with the Mabul, but it ended off with the Mon. And that's why, also interesting, what's one of the games kids used to play on Lag Baomer? There's an old custom of bow and arrows. What's bow and arrows have to do with anything? So what's the Hebrew word for bow and arrows? Keshet, which also means rainbow. Rainbow from the flood. So another illusion that we realize Lag Baomer also was the same day that Mabul was started. And in fact, recently I heard from one of the historians, Rabbi, I think Lehman, I forget his name, but he says they found the Cairo, the Geniza, they found stuff from, I guess they did the Cairo Geniza, they found earlier manuscripts, and it says, you know what? This day, Lag Baomer, used to be a very sad day. It was a Yom Tainus. You know what happened? It was the day Yehoshua ben Nun died. So at one point we see in Jewish history, so it was a sad day. We see it went from Mabul to Mon, the death of Yehoshua, and now it came back to be a holiday. In fact, the Chasam Sofer writes, there's nowhere in Shas or Poskim is mentioned Lag Baomer, and therefore he points out that he thinks it went overboard. He thinks the celebration for Lag Baomer, he's not sure if it's in violation of being kovei a new yontif. So therefore, in North America, it's not a problem, but in Israel, some say it's too much, it's too strong. And therefore, to conclude, so we see that Lag Baomer is a day of celebration. It might be clouded in mystery. Why? Because there's nowhere in the Gemara, but different suggestions being the death of Rabbi Akiva's student stopped, like the death of the Mesiah Midbar, that's why Tu B'Av, or something. We're not celebrating the death, we're celebrating the fact that the resilience, they're able to go on and live more. And also Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, the students of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, they lived on, and then Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, even though a yortzeit is a sad time, but here because it was a happy time, either because he lived a lot longer years, he wasn't killed by the Romans, or because he got to fulfill his mission, he revealed the Zohar. For this and the many different reasons, that's why it's a mixed yontif. And this year, the Lag Baomer falls out on Sunday, so the Ramah brings down in Shulchan Aruch that one can get a haircut on Friday. So if you want to get a haircut on Friday or shave, one is permitted, because if you can do it on Sunday and not Shabbos, it'll be a bizayon. It'll be a disgrace to Shabbos. So therefore, even though it's a discussion, but our minhag is people one is permitted and perhaps obligated, and if you're permitted to shave and take a haircut, we're covered Shabbos.